Hello, nice to have you join us on the news at 5. I'm Dominic Iwiwa, and these are the stories and reports we're tracking at the moment. We start off at the judiciary as Justice Mohammed Garba Omar of the Federal High Court in Abuja has dismissed the no-case submission made by human rights activist Omoyele Sowore in the case of alleged cyberbullying of President Bola Tinubu brought against them by the Department of State Service. The court held that Mr. Sowore has a case to answer by providing explanations to some issues raised by the prosecution, as a prima facie case has been established by the prosecution. In its evidence before the court that Mr. Sowore used his social media handle to make a post as testified to by prosecution witness. Reacting to the ruling of the court on his no-case submission, Omoyele Sowore, through his counsel, sought the permission of the judge to address him, which was granted by the court. Sowore told Justice Umar that he is not confident that he will get justice from a court that has humiliated his counsel by asking him to kneel down, and also from a court which has subjected him to all forms of harassment. He then asked Justice Umar to recuse himself from his trial. The court is adjourning proceedings until May 19th, even as Omoyele Sowore's counsel, Marshal Abubakar, is insisting that the selected date is not convenient. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has challenged the suit filed by a lawyer, John Mary Jideobi, seeking to restrain him from contesting the 2027 presidential election. Mr. Jonathan, through his lawyer Chris Uche San, told Justice Peter Lifu of the Federal High Court Abuja shortly after the matter was called for hearing that a letter of conditional appearance, a notice of preliminary objection, a counter affidavit and a written address had been filed on May 5th, praying the court to dismiss the case. He said they got information about the case through the media, and hence the need to file their processes urgently, going by the importance of the matter impacting on the eligibility of the former president to contest in the next election. The senior lawyer said it was unfortunate that such a suit is filed by a lawyer who should know more, and that this same matter had been decided by a federal high court up to the Court of Appeal. Earlier, counsel to the plaintiff, Ndubisi Ukpai, informed the court that the matter was for mention, but he was just being served by Jonathan's processes and would need more time to respond. Justice Peter Lifu subsequently adjourned the matter to May the 11th for hearing of the ex-president's objection and the substantive suit. The judge also ordered that hearing notices be issued and served on INEC and the Attorney General of the Federation as the second and third defendants in the matter that were not in court. Citing constitutional grounds, lawyer John Mary Jideobi urged the court to issue an order of perpetual injunction restraining President Goodluck Jonathan from presenting himself to any political party in the country for the purpose of contesting in the poll. Staying with legal matters, the Plateau High Court sitting in Jos has fixed June 19th and July 3rd, 2026 for the commencement of substantive hearing in the case between the people of Plateau State and one Adamu Isa Alassane, who is facing a 6-count charge before Court 12. Justice Jacob Longden fixed the dates after proceedings resumed for a case management conference and directed that all witnesses be present in court on the adjourned dates, while also ordering that the defendant be produced for hearing. Adamu Isa Alassane is facing 6 charges bordering on criminal conspiracy, culpable homicide, unlawful possession of firearms, unlawful assembly, incitement to violence, and acts capable of disturbing public peace. During proceedings, the Attorney General of Plateau State and lead prosecutor Philemon Daffy informed the court that the prosecution had filed its case management conference form alongside the charge on April 17, 2026, which was subsequently adopted. Counsel to the defendant, Mustafa Shaba Ibrahim San, also told the court that the defense filed its response to the CMC on May 6, which was regularized on May 8, 2026, and adopted same before the court. Justice Longden ordered that the defendant be remanded in DSS custody and granted access to a counsel of his choice, pending the conclusion of investigations. Earlier, in the High Court, Justice Gedelia Fomion of Court 9 fixed July 1 and 2nd, 2026 for definite hearing in the terrorism case involving 4 defendants accused of terrorism and committing acts of terrorism. The defendants in the matter are Isa Umar Ibrahim, Adamu Isa Alassane, Awalu Abubakar, and Musa Abubakar Ibrahim. Staying in Plateau State, tragedy has struck again in the state. A suspected gunman reportedly killed no fewer than 13 persons in a fresh attack on Ngbra Zongo community, Kwal district of Basa local government area. Several other residents sustained varying degrees of injuries during the assault, which occurred in the early hours of Friday, throwing the community into panic. A resident, Mr. Philip Alanga, told journalists in Jos that the attackers invaded the community at about midnight, opening fire indiscriminately before attacking residents with machetes and other dangerous weapons. According to him, the assailants moved from house to house, targeting innocent residents and leaving a trail of death and destruction. Mr. Langa said they came into the community around midnight and started shooting and hacking people to death. He explained that many residents fled into nearby bushes to escape the violence, while several others were left injured and in urgent need of medical attention. Confirming the incident, the Secretary General of the Iregwe Development Association, Mr. Danjuma Aota, described the attack as barbaric, urging security operatives to swiftly apprehend those behind the killings and ensure they are brought to justice. Attempts to get a response from the police was unsuccessful, as calls to the DPO was not reachable as at press time. The Assistant Inspector General of Police, Zone 2 AIG Olorundare Jimo, says the Nigeria Police Force must uphold human rights and due process in all operations. Speaking on Sunrise Daily on Channels Television, he reiterates that police personnel are subject to public opinion and are regularly educated to ensure suspects are handled according to constitutional provisions. AIG Jimo condemned extrajudicial actions, insisting no Nigerian should die in the hands of law enforcement, as the courts alone determine guilt and punishment. He referenced recent cases, including the arrest of one Ogunemen Ogibe in Delta State, to highlight the need for proper investigation and prosecution, adding that conflicting court judgments on suspects' rights must be properly understood to avoid abuse.
Any organization, such as the Nigerian Police Force, that have the responsibility of securing the people, we are subject to public opinion. And because we are subject to public opinion, we have to grapple on day-to-day in educating our personnel, in ensuring that we supervise them and make sure that they conform with the dictates as is expected in the respect for human rights and dignity in the Constitution. So, but when you dwell into that of Delta, see what has happened there, the IG withered the big stick against those officers responsible. Because even though the guy has committed a crime, no individual, no Nigerian wants to die in the hand of any law enforcement agency. It is the process of the court that we have to take the person through. And in the process of the court can look at the matter and take appropriate judgment that is appropriate in that regard. So no Nigerian deserves to die in the hand of any law enforcement agency, including the police force. And that is why when the person, his name is Ogunemen Ogidi, went to Sapele, from Sapele to Warri to dispatch a parcel. I told them at the garage that this is a baby clothing. And in the process, they felt it and they feel it's heavy. So they went behind the courier themselves, opened it and discovered a locally made fabricated Beretta pistol with 4 rounds of live ammunition. They called in the area commander, and the commander swiftly now mobilized a team to go there to pick the suspect. He did not direct them to shoot the suspect. Even if the catches of arms are much more than that, no individual should die.
There is this case recently of a woman, one Adinka, who said that, took the police to court. And the case was thrown out by the court. Now, the issue was that, according to the case, that she was unlawfully and unconstitutionally declared wanted by the police, and that she wanted some kind of recompense from the police. Yes, the case was thrown out of court, but part of the argument of her counsel was that the case, shouldn't have been thrown out because there are other cases that came before it. An Emmanuel Oji case, a Moyele Sowore case. In fact, one of the cases the judgment was passed by the same judge, and there were two different, judgments. You want to give us an idea what exactly happened and why? Because the conflicting judgments, so to speak, suggests that maybe sometimes the police just has to have its way.
No, that is completely wrong.
Okay.
The judge, a magistrate, or any presiding officer that is overseeing any matter in court have the responsibility to go through the book and listen to both parties in the matter. For people who are suspect, that's where this judgment is quite important for people to understand it, that no court order is needed by the police to declare a suspect wanted, a suspect of a crime. Especially as it happened in the case of Dorcas Adenika, wanted for multiple fraud, cyber crime, all that cyber-related issues that she has committed. That's a judgment that the police need no any order of court to declare a suspect wanted.
The Director General of the National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons, Mr. Babatunde Kukumu, says Nigeria's porous borders, a rise in local manufacturers, and the illicit stockpile of arms are some of the causes of the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in the country. The retired police chief stated this when he addressed graduates of the Physical Security Stockpile Management course at the National Counterterrorism Center in Abuja. He assured Nigerians that all hands are on deck to combat the menace, stating that the training is one of such strategic actions to tackle the issue.
I took time to reflect on the problems of proliferation of small arms and light weapons in Nigeria. What has actually constituted the major problem, and how do we go about? If you do not understand the problems at hand, how do you provide solutions? And I was able to identify three major sources of proliferation of illicit weapons in Nigeria. One, majorly, is from the porous borders. Second, could be traced to within. Artisanal producers, that is, the local producers, the local manufacturers, and the third one, that became most worrisome to me, the third source of proliferation in Nigeria is hemorrhages from illicit stockpiles of arms-bearing agencies of government. The government has spent so much money acquiring these weapons. These weapons, of course, are acquired to fight the enemies. And we have discovered over time that there have been hemorrhages from such illicit stockpiles of arms-bearing agencies of government.
You're watching the news at 5 on Channels Television. Right after this break, we'll bring you a story as the federal government launches a grant for vulnerable citizens. Details when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The federal government has launched a special grant for vulnerable groups under the National Social Investment Program Agency. The initiative is aimed at supporting vulnerable Nigerians through economic empowerment, social protection, and livelihood support.
Thank you.
The federal government is expanding its social investment drive with the launch of the Grants for Vulnerable Groups program in Abuja. The program is designed to help beneficiaries build sustainable livelihoods and improve economic stability.
This program comes at a time when many households are facing real economic pressures. We all understand that poverty is not just a social condition, it limits productivity, weakens community, and slows national development. But we also know that when people are given the right support, not just relief, but opportunity, they can rebuild, grow, and contribute meaningfully to the economy.
The program is part of the federal government's poverty reduction agenda under the National Investment Program Agency.
What we are launching today is more than a program. It is a reaffirmation of government responsibility to support those who are most vulnerable in our society. It reflects a deliberate shift from broad interventions to targeted, people-centered action that respond directly to the realities of Nigeria most in need. And as you can see, the beneficiaries, they are not the type that, people, they are not the type that normally come to people's mind. These are people who really need the help. And I'm happy that this program will be able to target those who are in need, who want this intervention directly.
Like Sheila says, our program beneficiaries will benefit 17 sewing machines, 30 grinding machines, and each one will support his. This is incredible. This is an equal, unprecedented for somebody to collect this and start their work and the money. Thank you so much.
Mohammed Hafiz. The event also features the presentation of symbolic grants and empowerment equipment to selected beneficiaries.
On business news, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has approved licenses for the import of 720,000 metric tons of petrol in efforts to boost fuel supply across the country. This comes amid ongoing efforts by the federal government to stabilize the petroleum market while increasing domestic refining capacity through local refineries, including the gradual ramp-up of operations at newly rehabilitated and privately owned plants. The petroleum regulator says the approvals are issued to oil marketers and importers to ensure uninterrupted availability of premium motor spirits, especially as demand remains high in major cities and commercial hubs. Nigeria's fixed income market is projected to witness a surge in liquidity inflows this month, with an estimated total of 10.53 trillion naira entering the system. The projection was disclosed by the Financial Markets Dealers Association in its monthly market report. According to the financial markets body, the inflows will be largely driven by elevated open market operations and maturities. The anticipated increase, when compared with the 9.08 trillion naira liquidity inflow recorded in April, signals a stronger liquidity environment that could shape interest rate movements and investment decisions across the market. As part of efforts to improve taxpayer support and ease compliance processes, the Nigeria Revenue Service says it has extended its weekend services nationwide from May the 8th to June the 27th. According to the tax agency, the extension is aimed at preparing taxpayers ahead of the rollout of its Rev 360 platform, which is expected to enhance digital tax administration and streamline revenue collection processes. The NRS points out that tax offices across the country will now operate on Saturdays to assist individuals and businesses with registrations, filings, and other tax-related services. It also clarifies that the temporary weekend operations are designed to reduce congestion at tax offices and provide more flexible access for taxpayers seeking assistance. The Lagos State Electricity Regulatory Commission is set to commence the pilot rollout of 24/7 electricity franchise zones across Lagos by October this year as part of efforts to transform the electricity market in the metropolis. The initiative was announced by the Commission's Chief Executive Officer, Temitope George, during the Commission's maiden stakeholder engagement. According to LASEC's regulatory roadmap, the Commission plans to commission the first 2 or 3 Lagos 24/7 electricity franchise areas in the next 5 months. The initiative forms part of LASEC's short-term regulatory agenda, which outlines strategic milestones aimed at repositioning Lagos's electricity market for efficiency, innovation, and reliability through to 2030. The federal government has launched a renewed drive to revitalize the country's coffee industry and strengthening the country's position in the global coffee market. The initiative was highlighted at a stakeholders meeting through a public-private partnership aimed at boosting production, improving value addition for the commodity. Speaking at the event, the Minister of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, emphasized that coffee is a powerful economic crop with the potential to create jobs, boost rural livelihoods, and enhance Nigeria's position in the global agricultural market. Outside our shores in business, Ghana is seeking to raise $1 billion in bonds to help finance cocoa purchases and support payments to farmers as the country moves to strengthen stability in its key agricultural export sector. The planned bond is expected to provide funding for cocoa buying operations, ensure timely payments to farmers, and smooth procurement ahead of the new harvest cycle. Authorities say the move is aimed at sustaining liquidity in the cocoa value chain, which remains a major source of foreign exchange earnings for the country. The initiative also reflects Ghana's efforts to secure alternative funding sources to support its commodity exports while maintaining steady supply to international buyers. Ethiopia's headline inflation rate climbed back to 11.7% in April 2026, marking a return to double-digit figures after a brief period of single-digit moderation. This reversal follows a cooling trend where inflation had dropped to 9.4% in March, the lowest level since 2018. Key drivers of the rebound include external shocks, a sharp increase in domestic fuel prices following the adjustments in fuel price by the government on April the 1st, global supply disruptions and energy price volatility, which is partially linked to ongoing crisis in the Middle East, and the significant hike in food price, such as meat, vegetables, oils, and sugar. The inflation rebound highlights the fragility of Ethiopia's current macroeconomic reforms as external and domestic pressures converge. And that's it on the news at 5 on Channels Television. For updates, kindly visit our website. That's www.channelstv.com. I'm Dominic Iwiwu. Up next is The World Today.